We are in London with the eminent Rafael Viñoly, who is talking about breaking the mold while embracing context in historic cities. You work all over the world, and you've got two projects going in London right now. Just tell us how you're doing on both of these. The first is the master plan for Battersea Power Station.
Well, that was a very intense, almost 5 years of processing through the very difficult planning exercise in the city of London, but a successful one. And is now under construction, which is a remarkable change of events in the history of the project. The project was attempted 4 or 5 times before, always under the pre-assumption that both the economics and the transportation subjects, were less important than what they truly are. The site cannot actually be developed unless there is a clear commitment to the development of the Northern Line extension to reach Battersea Power Station again. And the project committed a very substantial amount of money to contribute to that. But as you see, the whole site since we started has changed incredibly. For one thing, the American Embassy has moved there. There are at least 10, if not new projects under construction for an amount that probably tops 10 million square feet or so. Is the incredible phenomenon of how this town evolves, which is by leap and bounds without actually a real sense of overall planning, which I think is probably smart and very wise. I mean, it is all sort of borough driven. And there are pockets around town that in London that are locationally in an absolutely sort of privileged situation that were occupied by sort of 19th century industrial structures, or in the case of Battersea Power Station, a early 20th century energy producing installation that actually had a history of being incredibly damaging to the environment. It was a coal burning generating plant that became this sort of kind of icon in the imagery of the city, even after being sort of put to rest. I mean, for something like 35, 40 years, the building has been vacant, almost derelict. I mean, self-demolished in many parts of it too, and but at the same time very much loved, even though it was one of the most hated buildings in London in the early 30s and 40s, for very good reasons. And the aspiration for the renovation of the site, the building is enormous, but on top of the building there is a site associated with it, which is pretty large, plus also is on the river because the coal used to be brought with barges to the site. And it is one of these projects that, finally is undergoing. We're just at the beginning of the construction, but it is as I say, a master plan that allows a variety of buildings to be built by different architects, which I think is very important in a project of this magnitude. But with a sense of the creation of a place to work and live and play that is how the city works. I mean, it would be really not the proper way of thinking of it if it was just simply a residential structure. It's residential hotels, a lot of commercial space in terms of offices, a great deal of retail, um, uh, public infrastructure, and the construction of the extension of the Northern Line, which is also an enormous commitment on the part of the developers.
You have another headline project in London, 20 Fenchurch Street, which is also called the Walkie Talkie. And one of my other interviews said that if you don't have a nickname in English in this country, that really is a mark of affection. Are you happy with that mark of affection?
I am actually. As a matter of fact, somebody asked me yesterday. I think it's a perfectly. See, I find the name a little bit retro because, for most people that are not my age, they have no idea what a walkie-talkie is. I mean, walkie-talkie today is a telephone, it's a smartphone like you and me have. So it is a go back to the imagery of these very heavy telephones that were used as walkie-talkies in the war and so on. That as I say, it's easy to associate it with it. I don't think it's a degrading nickname. The British public has an incredible level of imagination for these things, and they usually hit it very right. I mean, the gherkin has a name, the shard has a name, the cheese grater is also something I would have come up with that name. The project is very important, as I say, not because of the nickname, but because it's a project that produces and it's a project that works as an inverted tower. The small part of the building is at the bottom and the bigger part is at the top, which is something that you can do in a building of these proportions and this height very simply. And what that allows you is to generate more area where the views are the best, and probably the lettability of the building is even more, is easier and more productive financially. But at the same time, that gesture comes together with a contribution to the public realm, which is unique and unheard of, and as I said, very much a groundbreaking condition for the mix between public and private responsibility, because the top is occupied by a garden in a greenhouse that it is open to the public as if it was a park in London, and that's not the same than an observatory or a viewing platform like most buildings, high-rise buildings have.